Welcome to Kerbal. Nope. Flusion.
Mother Sonnah had called, and the administrator, ever one to confuse confidence for competence, answered. The mission was clear. The execution, less so. Under his less than gentle guidance, the Flusion Expeditionary colony flung their first probe into the embrace of the gas giant that loomed eternal in their sky. Packed with all the science tools available for orbital experiments, the Sonnah Explorer 1 shot headlong into the mother planet with all hopes of gathering much-needed science from the mission. But as the probe rounded the other side of the swirling blue gas giant, line of sight communication was lost. The probe descended unguided and unresponsive into the blue shade of hydrogen-enriched ether to succumb to a catastrophic end at -256 meters into Sonnah's outer layer, only leaving the administrator even more curious about the surface of this celestial god. Contract fulfilled, but curiosity not, the administrator quickly loaded up another Sonnah Explorer 1 package, added parachutes, and without second thought sent it hurling into Sonnah's oceans of blue gas storms. This probe too would suffer the same fate. Line of sight communication lost to the backside of Sonnah, and the unresponsive vulnerable science probe, with undeployable parachutes, fell impotently into another catastrophic end. No contract fulfilled, no science gained, funds lost, and the administrator still seething with curiosity. Sonnah Explorer 1 number 3. With the administrator finally, at least for this time, learning from the previous failures, ensured line of sight communication with the probe during vital burns, putting the Sonnah Explorer number 3 into a somewhat circular orbit around the Jovian planet. The probe began to relay back the most wanted science data to mission control about Flusion's celestial matriarch. 23 science points gained, but the most important science of the material studies still laid out of reach due to the insufficient battery supply to relay the information. The blame was put on Bill. For whatever reasons, the orbiting probe, now depleted of fuel and function, was terminated by the administrator, and Sonnah Explorer 1 number 4 was loaded up for launch. While still failing to comprehend to keep the craft in line of sight communication for the purposes of collecting science before the vessel's destruction, the corrected staging of the parachutes did allow the Sonnah Explorer to deploy chutes on entry into the upper atmosphere of the deep blue abyss. The administrator could now see if the surface of Sonnah, be it solid or gas, could obtain a touchdown for the available contracts demanding ore samples from the mother gas giant. While the craft was still without signal from mission control, it slowly broke through the plane of Sonnah's horizon, and communication with the probe was suddenly re-established.
My God, it's full of stars.
Peering over the edge of the looking glass, the signal completed its transmission directly through the gas giant itself. The unknown became the unexplainable. Sonnah Explorer 1 number 5 finally found success in having line-of-sight communication with the Sonnah entry probe and Flusion mission control. But very little science was produced before more funds became hemorrhaged in the administrator's great white whale, or blue gas giant. Undaunted by funds lost, the grind of successful ground and air contracts on Flusion produced the agency a modest $1.75 million before the Sonar probe program began. So the administrator upped the ante by adding 4 thumpers onto the first stage of the probe's launch platform. The goal was to return a probe with gathered science from around Sonnah, and unsure about the amount of Delta V that it would take, the administrator erred on the side of overkill. The 6th Sonnah Explorer 1 became a rain of fire over the shores of Mission Control. Common decoupling problem, Bill. Mission 7. Overcompensating from the prior misfire, the launch vehicle overshot orbit trajectory entirely and out of communication sight. The probe was last seen skipping through the upper atmosphere of Flusion, then disappearing into the waves like a stone tossed in frustration. Mission 8, success. Sweet, humble, overdue success, a clean flyby. 41 science points, 1 fulfilled contract. The space agency clapped, almost politely. The final 2 missions. 9 couldn't leave the launch pad. 10 existed solely to replace a prior probe with a shinier plaque. In the end, over 200,000 funds were lost to the gas giant's gravity well, but in return, the Flusion Expeditionary colony earned a foothold in the Great Tree of Progress. New parts at the cost of entry fees and new possibilities of failing to comprehend the new tech to begin with, and perhaps a lesson, or maybe just a more efficient way to fail next time. This was the price of progress on Flusion. With a wallet a little thinner and dreams a little taller, the administrator turned gaze once more to the heavens, because if failure was fuel, Flusion was nearly ready for interstellar travel.
Oh.